Hey, what is going on, everybody? My name is Adam Garcia. This is My Life in the Blue Line, episode 1. And let me just say right off the bat, this is not the type of content that I wanted to do when I decided to start this whole Instagram, YouTube, social media journey of mine. I wanted to do leadership, lifestyle, motivational content. I wanted to talk about things that were going to brighten up your day, brighten up your week. The last thing I wanted to talk about was ICE raids, right? But you know, with everything that's going on in the country today, I just thought that this was just too important of a topic to pass by. And so I wanted to talk about it briefly. And for a number of reasons. One, I think I offer a unique perspective on the topic. For those of you who don't know me or meeting me for the first time, I've been in law enforcement for the last 23 years in the SoCal area, so I'm very familiar with immigration policy and sanctuary state policies and how they affect law enforcement. And the other reason I wanted to do this video was because I was getting really tired of makeup artists and gym bros with their Instagram degrees talking about things that they just have no clue about, and it was just a little frustrating to just see them get, just putting so much bad information out there. So again, I just thought that I offer a unique perspective, and I wanted to give you guys some information that I think will be helpful in helping us get moving in the right direction and get us past these ICE raids and the manner in which they're being done. So give me a few minutes. Let's go ahead and talk about this. So first, let's talk about sanctuary state policies, because sanctuary state policies is really what got us into this problem in the first place. Now, I'm not trying to convince you to like them or hate them, but I'm just going to give you guys just the facts, right? If you are an illegal immigrant living in a sanctuary state, there's not much that you need to worry about in terms of your immigration status, right? You can call 911 for police and fire services. You can go to the emergency room, enroll your family or kids into school. There's financial services that are available to you. There's really not a whole lot that you can't do in California or in a sanctuary state if you're an illegal immigrant. Now, politicians will say that this was a policy that was necessary for humanitarian purposes. The truth is that there was a far more sinister reason behind it, and I will address that in another video. But in terms of what we're dealing with right now, when politicians created this sanctuary state policies, it was very short-sighted. They didn't think of the potential fallout that would come along with having such a policy. So, for example, one of the things that they didn't think about was the large migration of illegal immigrants that came into this country. Now, again, this isn't speculation, guys. I've been out there for 23 years now, and I've dealt with these communities. And let me just say this. These communities are full of great people. I don't have anything personal against illegal immigrants, or anybody, really. But I will say this, that the vast majority of these folks that are crossing the border into this country illegally, most of them, I honestly think will make better Americans than some of the brats that are being born in America today, right? They believe in America and what it stands for. They want to work hard. They want to raise a family. They want to create a great life for themselves and their loved ones. I understand it. I get it, right? But when you have that many people coming into the country illegally, it's not an issue of, is there enough land or is there enough space? It comes down to resources, and it comes down to a lot of other things that are finite. So it created a lot of problems in terms of just the number of people that were coming in. The other thing that it did too is that it kind of created a lot of complacency in terms of those folks that were currently here and their immigration status, right? Now, I have friends that personally, because they were in a sanctuary state, they've let their paperwork go to the side. They just were not interested in trying to update their citizenship status anymore. And I would talk to them. I said, hey man, have you worked on your paperwork at all or anything like that? And they're just like, I don't need to. I'm in California, a sanctuary state. I don't need to worry about it. But at the same time, though, they were always subject to deportation because they were not legal citizens, especially now with this administration, right? But the biggest issue that we have when it comes down to these sanctuary state policies is how it protected those illegal immigrants that were here committing crimes. Now, I'm just going to give you guys an example of what that's like. So let's say I conduct a traffic stop. The individual tells me he's an illegal immigrant. I run his name. I see that he's been arrested for drug possession, burglary, and is currently on probation for domestic violence, which means he likes to beat his wife. Now, I think we can all agree that that's the type of individual that, you know what, get him out of here. Right? He came here illegally. He was a bad guest the whole time he was here. It's time for that guy to go home. So we should be able to take that guy into custody, call ICE, and get him deported back to his home country. Unfortunately, because we are a sanctuary state, I can't do anything with that guy. Questioned and released, as we call it. Now, what's sad is that I can replace that domestic violence crime with just about anything, and the results would be the same. Crimes against children, sexual assaults against women, sexual assaults against children, gang crimes, drug possession, gun possession, any type of violent crime that you can imagine, the result would be the same. We are not allowed to cooperate with ICE and have individuals like that deported. And again, I believe that common sense would suggest that, hey, yeah, those are the types of individuals that we need to get out of here. But because we're a sanctuary state, we're not allowed to do that. Which brings us to the ICE raids and why they're happening in the fashion that they're happening right now. Now, in regards to the Trump administration, I'm not trying to convince anybody to like them. If I can convince you to like Donald Trump, I'm telling you right now, my talents are completely wasted being a police officer. But I'm just going to give you guys the information as it is, right? When Donald Trump became president in his second term, he made it very clear to all those sanctuary states, you guys need to amend your policies. You need to allow local law enforcement to be able to cooperate with ICE so individuals like the ones I described can be surrendered to ICE and deported back to their home country. Because it's common sense. These are violent individuals. These are individuals that came here illegally and were bad guests the entire time. It's time to send those guys home, right? Now, rather than these governors and local city officials, rather than them cooperating with the Trump administration, they decided to stonewall him and said, we are not going to amend our policies. Guys like Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass decided to just say, you know what? Nope, we're going to keep our policies the way they are. They were given a warning by ICE, by the administration, saying that, hey, look, if you do not cooperate with our demands, you're forcing us into your communities. We don't want to come into your communities. We would much rather take somebody into custody in a controlled environment. Now, what is that like? That is taking somebody, going into the county jails or going into a police station where someone is already in custody and just surrendering them to ICE, and they go home from there. When they got stonewalled, that is what resulted in the ICE raids coming to the neighborhoods in the manner in which you see today. And that's what also created a lot of the collateral damage. Now, when we talk about the collateral damage, I'm talking about those sad stories that you hear where people have been, in the country for, 20 plus years, good people, raised a family, have a business, but were illegal immigrants nonetheless. And unfortunately, when ICE comes across an illegal immigrant, they cannot discriminate against which illegal immigrants they're going to take, because if they did, that would be biased policing. They can't say, well, your illegal immigration status is okay, but yours is not. Now they're discriminating against individuals. So because they got stonewalled, because they were forced to come into the communities and not allowed to go into county jails and cooperate with local law enforcement, now you see the ICE raids being done in the manner in which they're doing. And let me just say this, guys, from personal experience, going into people's homes to conduct search warrants, those aren't fun. Those are not fun. There's a lot that can go wrong there. There's the tempers of the families can be off the wall. Guns can be concealed. A lot of emotion going on. It's a dangerous environment, and so it is much safer to just be able to cooperate with local law enforcement and take them into custody, illegal immigrants into custody in a controlled environment. But again, like I said, they got stonewalled. Now, my criticism of the Trump administration. Look, if I was able to have a conversation with Donald Trump, I would have been like, bro. Well, I want to call him bro, but I would have basically said, you know what? There's probably about 10 different ways that you could have done this. This way was very, very, very chaotic, and it was not the best way to go about it. So again, I have my criticisms on how things were being done, but ultimately we have to ask, why was it being done like this in the first place? And that was because people like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and members of Congress, like Congresswoman Torres and Senator Padilla and all these other people, they much rather do what benefited their campaigns rather than what benefited the people that they represent. And that's unfortunate, because now they are all grandstanding off of the deportations of your loved ones. The truth of the matter is that when Trump became president, they all should have gotten their butts out to Washington and said, hey, look, we understand that you're not happy with our sanctuary state policies. What type of ways do you want us to amend them so we don't have to worry about ICE raids coming into our neighborhoods? And this whole thing could have been avoided. And now I know what some of you are probably thinking. I probably sound like some right-wing conservative. I'm not a conservative, guys, and I always say this. I'm not left. I'm not right. I'm an American. right? And so this is not a political stance, but we have to go ahead and address the facts as they are. This could have been prevented. This thing never had to go off the way it did. But again, when people decided to stonewall this administration, when people's egos got in the way, now things got chaotic, and this is why we're having the problems with the way that we are now. Now, I believe a pathway to citizenship is well overdue. I shouldn't say necessarily a pathway to citizenship, but I think immigration reform is well overdue. I think we can all agree with that, right? These ICE raids kind of affect all of us, in one way or another. We all kind of know somebody who's kind of in hiding right now, or afraid for their families or their loved ones are going to be deported right now. It's just a very, very, very ugly environment that we're living in right now. And again, it did not have to be this way. And the only reason it happened was because leaders decided to not be leaders. Instead, they decided to be politicians, and now we're all suffering for it. So I believe that we can move past this. I believe that there's a solution to it. It's not easy, but it's possible. But again, it's just time for us to actually start letting cooler heads prevail and start working on immigration policy that is going to move us past these ICE raids and into the right direction. So, and with that being said, guys, I am going to leave it there. So, wow. Talk about jumping in the deep end of the pool, right? So I promise you folks, in the weeks to come, the content will be far more motivational and uplifting and not as depressing as what I just talked about today. I hope you guys will join me as I bring that content to you. Until next time, my name is Adam Garcia. This is My Life and the Blue Line. As always, take care and God bless.